Agyanati mirandasya gyananjana shalakaya chakshurun meditam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Ya Kundentu Tukara Javala, Ya Shupravastram Vita, Ya Vina Varadanda Manditakara, Ya Shveta Padmasana, Ya Brahma Chuta Shankara Prapritibir, Devye Sadaha Vandita, Samam Patu Saraswati Bhagavati, Putti Pradaham Sharade, Putti Pradaham Sharade. Okay. Welcome again. So we started with the summary. We said Mahabharata is where the Bhagavad Gita is placed in, is one of the greatest epos, speaks about the fight between two families, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. In the first section we have spoken about who they are, a little bit how the whole history has happened. It ends up in a war because they don't want to give back the kingdom which belongs to the Pandavas, the Kauravas, the bad guys don't want to give back the kingdom which belongs to the good guys. And after trying to find peaceful solutions, the war happens. And that is where the Bhagavad Gita starts. The Bhagavad Gita is the song of God. Bhagavan is God, Gita is the song. And it is a discourse between God, Krishna, and humanity, which is represented by the hero Arjuna, one of these 5 brothers, the Pandavas, from the good guys. So this is all what we spoke in the first section, and we started with the first chapter. I've told you that the Bhagavad Gita is composed of 700 verses, 18 chapters, and if you want to study the Bhagavad Gita a little bit, then the first thing you should do is learn the name of the chapters. You don't need to know it necessarily by Sanskrit, but if you know the name of the chapter, you automatically will know what this chapter speaks about. So the first chapter is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga, which means the lamentation of Arjuna, and therefore we know already that in the first chapter it speaks about the lamentation of Arjuna. And Arjuna is us. So in that chapter, the war setting is presented, and Arjuna, which is you, myself, every human being, doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to take on his duty, his challenges, because he's overwhelmed with weakness, with attachment, and he just doesn't want to do it, by seeing the challenge. In that section, what we have done, we have made a small meditation, which I invite everybody to do. We won't do it now because that was in the first section, but just reflect on who is your enemy in this world, the external enemy, what are the factors, the external factors, be it family, be it society, be it work, whatever it might be, which stops you from your spiritual progress, where you just don't want to fight, you don't want to confront, maybe you don't want to confront your husband, your wife, your children, society, you don't want to stand up for what you think is right, and you just say, you know what, just let it be. So find your enemy, it could be an external one and an internal one. So the internal one is actually even more important. What are your desires? What are your weaknesses? What is your qualities which you know they are not good for you, for your spiritual growth, but you still don't want to change them. Yeah, maybe you get offended very easily. Maybe you get jealous very easily. Maybe you're very arrogant. Maybe you're very, whatever it be. Just look at yourself and see, why do I not, or what is the quality, and why do I not want to overcome it? Because that's what we said, the Bhagavad Gita should be something very practical. It is not something which you should learn and just know mentally. No, it is your daily companion, because it speaks about your life, about my life, about our life, because the circumstances Arjuna is in, we all are in all the time. So make it really your own, and then listen to the instructions which God gives, which Krishna gives, which the Master gives, so that you can overcome and change. That was the first section. We have stopped the first section with chapter 2, verse 7, where the Arjuna, or we as human beings, have actually made an important step of humility. We have asked for help. We have understood that we don't know all the answers. We have put this arrogance by the side and have entered a little humility and have said, like Arjuna does in that moment, he says, I'm confused. I don't know what is right and what is wrong. Please show me the way. So he asks God or the Master to show him the way, to instruct him. And that is a very important point where we actually also want to accept help from anybody. Because if we think we know everything, then what's the point? Chapter 2 is called Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga means analysis. Analysis about spiritual reality and material reality. So in the second chapter, he speaks mainly about that theme of you are not this body, you are a spiritual being. That is very important, because if you don't understand that, you will never solve your problems in life, you will never be fulfilled, you will never be happy, you will never have what you're looking for. That is the first teaching. The solution for everything is you have to know that you are not this body, you are not your emotions, etc. And he elaborates on this a lot. Krishna elaborates on this, on the problems, on desires, a lot of things we have spoken about. But chapter 2, after chapter 1 being lamentation, the first instructions which you get so that you can find a solution is you have to understand who you are. And you are not this body, you're a spiritual being. So Sankhya Yoga, analysis between material reality and spiritual reality. Then it goes into chapter 3. That was then already the second portion, the second lecture we had. Chapter 3 is called Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is the yoga of action. So in that, Krishna describes how karma functions. Every action has a reaction, and as long as there's cause and effect, you are bound to a physical identification, you have still the illusion of being this body. You're not free completely, you're not self-realized, you're not enlightened, and therefore it is important to get rid of karma. And one thing is knowing that you're a spiritual being, and one thing is realizing it. And Krishna says very clearly, if you want to realize it, I will give you now the teaching of yoga. And he starts with Karma Yoga. Okay? So chapter 3, Karma Yoga, we have spoken about the different kinds of karma and how it functions in a very rough way, so that we understand the importance of doing Karma Yoga, of not charging our luggage more, making it more heavy, but actually doing selfless service. The essence is do your action, do your duty, but don't be attached to the results. So chapter 1, lamentation, chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga, the analysis, and then chapter 3, okay, now you know who you are. Now, as you are part of this world, you have to act. How you should act, I tell you, Karma Yoga. Chapter 4 was Jnana Yoga. Jnana means knowledge, the yoga of knowledge. So in chapter 4, he speaks about many different things, but one particular point is Jnana, the state of realized knowledge, to know who you truly are. And also about a different approach, which is the path of Jnana Yoga, which is a path of external renunciation. He mentions that, but mainly it is about speaking about the state of realized knowledge. Okay, so Jnana Yoga is explained in a big deal. After that comes the 5th chapter, which is Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Karma Sannyasa Yoga means the renunciation of all actions. As he has spoken about Karma Yoga, which means renunciation of the fruits of the actions, and he has spoken about Jnana Yoga, which is actually a renunciation of all actions, Arjuna is a little bit confused and he wants to find a way out of it, and he asks, what is a better way? And Krishna describes very clearly the best way is, both ways are leading you to self-realization, but amongst those two ways, the internal renunciation is the better one. Karma Yoga is better than Jnana Yoga. Both lead to the same goal, but amongst those two, Karma Yoga is better. You should act, but it depends how you act. Whatever you do, if you clean toilets, if you work in the garden, if you are a boss of a company, whatever you do, it depends how you do the things, not what you do. That is the main essence of Karma Yoga. And so in that chapter, he elaborates on what true renunciation of actions is. It is not the renunciation of external action, but the renunciation of the fruits of the actions. In that, we have said that it is very important to know that, because we can see, even though every path and every yoga has value, the Bhagavad Gita and Krishna makes a very clear hierarchy. There's still things which are better and things which are not so good. Yeah? There is a hierarchy. All has its value, but it's not all the same. That is important to know. And then we came to chapter 6, which is Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana Yoga, the yoga of meditation, where he describes how to meditate, how to control the mind, and he ends with the point of saying, the greatest yogi is the one who loves me and surrenders to me. Yeah? So this is the first section. So we have said 700 verses, 18 chapters, and these 18 chapters you can separate into 3 parts. The first part is chapter 1 till chapter 6, which speaks about the main theme of Karma Yoga and the goal of self-realization. Know who you are. If you want to summarize it in these 2 points, you can. It speaks about many, many more points, but this is essentially what it speaks. Then the second section is from chapter 7 to chapter 12, which speaks about Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion, and the goal of God realization, which is a higher goal. And the last section, chapter 13 till 18, which we're going to start today, speaks about, deepens the themes which have been spoken in the 12 chapters before. Yeah, so just these 3 sections that you know. When we finish the first section, chapter 6, we have come to a point where, if you have really dived into it, if you have taken this knowledge and analyzed it for yourself, you have maybe come to the conclusion this is quite frustrating. Because Krishna speaks about you should control your mind, you should control your senses, and you should control your desires. Anybody of you is able to do those things? Congratulations. If you're not, then you're not even able to keep your mic muted. So keep your mic muted. Donna, apaga tu micrófono, por favor. Gracias. So once you have like in all this process, you see how difficult it is to control your mind, your desires, your senses. It is possible through a constant practice. It is possible through detachment, but not but. Yeah, look at your life. Look how difficult those things is. They're very easily said, but when you really dive into it, how much attachment you have, how much laziness, etc., etc. So once you have understood the difficulty of doing it all by yourself to get to know who you truly are, now Krishna starts to give him a different teaching in chapter 7 till 12, which is Bhakti Yoga, which gives us all hope. Yeah, because that's the path of devotion where actually you don't have to do it yourself. His grace is there. In that he starts to introduce himself as a personal deity. So we are in chapter 7, Jnana Vijnana Yoga. Yeah, so we had the Lamentation, first chapter. Analysis, Sankhya, second chapter. Karma Yoga, third chapter. Jnana Yoga, knowledge, the fourth chapter. Karma Sannyasa, the renunciation of action, fifth chapter. Sixth chapter, Dhyana Yoga, how to meditate. And he ends that by saying, the greatest yogi is the one who is loving me, dedicating his life to me, yeah, to God. So he already opens up for bhakti. Seventh chapter is called Jnana Vijnana Yoga, which means knowledge and applied knowledge, practical knowledge, or knowledge of Krishna. And in that he describes now his higher nature, his lower nature, and himself. Yeah, if you remember, we spoke about his lower nature is the material world, the five elements, the mind, the ego, and the intellect. His higher nature are the individual souls. We are all part of him. And then he says, and I am amongst them the highest. Everything is strung upon me like pearls on a thread. Yeah? There's no pearl necklace without a thread. You might not see the thread, but without God, without the thread, there's nothing existing. That is how he says he is above everything. And then he makes beautiful description of himself. He speaks about his yoga maya, his delusion, which makes us all not perceive the spiritual reality. And he says again, we have spoken 7:14, the chapter 7, verse 14. He says, my yoga maya is difficult to overcome, but if you are surrendered to me, if you dedicate your life to me, you will easily cross over. So already it becomes an easy path. No more speaking about control your mind, control your senses, control your desires. The only thing is dedicate your life to God. Make God number one. Chapter 8, Akshara Brahma Yoga, the undecaying reality. So he speaks about the importance of how you live. He says, whenever you think when you die, that is where you will be pulled again. If you think of God while you die, which we all will, sooner or later, then you will go to God. If you think of the world, you will be pulled back to the world. And to think of God while you die, you will have to practice this during your life. And again, that's why we do japam, we do the chanting of God's name, constant remembrance, learning about the saint's life, doing spiritual practice, so that you are, you make yourself aware of what's the ultimate reality. And in that again, he speaks about, he explains time and the different realities. He makes us aware how important it is to not get stuck in a material world, which is not just this physical Mother Earth, but there's also heavenly spheres and hellish spheres. They're all part of the material world. Till Satyaloka, till Brahma's realm, they're all material. But beyond that, there is Akshara Brahma, Vaikuntha, the unrestricted ultimate reality where there's no coming back, where there's no restriction, and there's just pure love, relationship with the ultimate. Yeah? That is what he invites us to. So that was number 8. Number 9, Raja Vidya Raja Guhya Yoga. That's now the kingly, the royal knowledge and the royal secret. Obviously, it's a very important chapter because it's a secret which he now tells you. And he says in the beginning, it's a very This secret is easily to practice. It is based on experience. And then we have looked at chapter 9, verse 26 and 34, where in 26 he says how to worship God. He says, like, if you want to please God, he says, Patram pushpam palam toyam, just offer me a leaf, a fruit, a drop of water. Whatever you give to me with love, whatever you offer out of love, I will accept. I will accept the love which you offer. So basically, love is the essence. You want to please God, you want to attain His grace, just love Him. Give everything, make everything now an offering to Him. Yeah, before we had karma yoga, don't be attached to the fruits of your actions. If you now change that idea and say, everything I do to serve God, then your karma yoga will become bhakti yoga. It will become a service to Him, and it will even uplift you further. And he ends chapter 9 by saying, Man mana bhava mat bhakto mat yajimam namaskuru. Yeah, focus your mind on me, become my devotee, worship me, and bow down to me. This is, Rajaguya, this is a royal secret. Yeah, this is a very, very important secret. Just, again, no speaking about control your senses, control your mind, control your desires. All of this will be taken care. You just do one thing. Think of God. Om Namo Narayana, Shivitala Giridhari Parabrahmana. Do your puja, do your meditation, do your sadhana, do everything what you do, offer it to Him. Think of Him as much as you can. Be His devotee. Worship Him, bow down to Him. All of those things, if you do that, He guarantees you will come to Him. And you can see that in that He's saying you're not just attaining self-realization, which we spoke before. No, you're attaining God realization. You're attaining Him, which is only possible by His grace. So he makes the point of bhakti and grace very much available and very much understandable. Obviously, you have to contemplate on those things and dive deeper into it. Chapter 10, Vibhuti Yoga. Yeah, so the Vibhuti Yoga is, we have said, there's a very logical conclusion. Once God says or the Guru says to you, you know, the only thing you have to do is focus your mind on me, then automatically, as somebody who wants to do that, you will ask one question. What is the question you will ask? How? How do I focus on you? And now he says, okay, now I tell you all my glories. And that's chapter 10, his Vibhuti Yoga, where he tells everything what he is. He already started in chapter 7, where he says, I am the sweetness of water, I am the brilliance of the sun, I am the heat of the fire, I am the smell of the earth. Like, you just drink water. Krishna. Yeah, you just have your mind on Krishna. You think of Krishna. The sun is shining Krishna. Yeah. Amongst the assembled waters, I am the ocean. Amongst the rivers, I am Ganges. He just speaks about his glories and expands and expands and expands. He ends that chapter by a very beautiful statement, chapter 10, verse 42, where he says, but you know what? What does it matter? Why do you care about those things? It is just by a mere fraction of myself that I pervade, sustain this whole universe. So he's basically saying the most beautiful things we can all summarize. Yeah, your beautiful experiences of all our lives combined, of everybody combined, the most beautiful things in nature and the universe and whatever. He says all of this. Don't get stuck with that, because this is just a mere fraction of myself. It's just a grain of sand of my glory. So don't get stuck on that. But if you dive into that, it's mind-blowing. And again, here the chapter ends, chapter 10, the glories, the Vibhuti Yoga ends, and we come into chapter 11, which is again a logical conclusion. So once he has said, this whole universe and its beauty is just a mere fraction of myself, it is nothing compared to who I am, automatically again, what question will arise inside of you? Who are you? Like, if that is all nothing compared to you, then who are you, my God, my Lord? And that is chapter 11, the Vishvarupa Darshana, the universal form, the vision of the universal form, where he reveals, he gives Arjuna Divyam Dadami Chakshu, he gives him the divine sight again, he gives it to him, he doesn't, it's grace, yeah, it's given, it's not earned, it's given. He gives him the divine sight so that he can see this cosmic vision. And everything, Arjuna just can't handle it, it's too much. There's no beginning, there's no middle, there's no end. He sees universes being created, destroyed. It's very, it's mind-blowing. Yeah. So in the end, he just says, "Please, I want you to have your form which is approachable." And then Krishna says in the end, in chapter 11, verse 54, "It is only through pure devotion that you were able to have this vision. Not by austerity, not by any other thing." So again, he makes a hierarchy. He says, devotion, love for God is the highest. Only if you have love for God, he will reveal himself to you. Everything else has its value, it's important, it's good. But love for God is the ultimate. That was chapter 11. And then we come chapter 12, which is called Bhakti Yoga. It's the chapter which concludes the second section. Yeah, we have said chapter 1 till 6 was Karma Yoga and self-realization. Chapter 7 till 12 speaks about Bhakti Yoga and God realization. And so this chapter is the final chapter of the second section, which is the shortest chapter. And it just speaks about what Bhakti is, how a devotee is, what are the qualities of a devotee, which again, if you are a devotee, if you want to be a devotee, if you want to be dear to your beloved, if you want to be dear to God, to the Master, read chapter 12 and let yourself get inspired about what he likes. Yeah, he says from chapter 12, verse 13 or 14 onwards till 20, all the different qualities, all the things which he likes. Yomat Bhakta Same Priyaha, that devotee is dear to me, that is dear to me, that is dear to me. So just take that on, get inspired. So this is a summary of the last sections we had. I see already the people here, they are in overload. So maybe we stop already here. I don't know if you want to hear more today or if we should stop just with the summary. Okay, let's go on with what we plan to do. Take a deep breath. Can do it. Yeah, so we have finished the second section, Bhakti Yoga, God realization. Now we come to the third section, which starts with chapter 13. And like I said, the third section is now deepening all the themes which have been described before. Good? So chapter 13 is called Kshetra Kshetrachna Yoga. Let me see if this works. Yes, it seems to work. Kshetra Kshetrachna Yoga, meaning the matter and spirit, or the field and the knower of the field. And as you can see already here in the title, matter and spirit, material reality, spiritual reality. Didn't we have this theme already? Yes? Did we speak about this theme already? Did Krishna speak about matter and spirit already? Yes, he did. He did in chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga, when he gave him the first understanding. Listen, you are not this body. Don't be weak. Don't let yourself be overcome by your weakness. Know who you are. You are the eternal self. He kept on speaking about it in chapter 7 when he speaks about his higher nature. The embodied souls are his higher nature. He keeps on speaking about that in chapter 9. And now in chapter 13 he keeps on elaborating even more on those themes. Yeah? Again, obviously just for an overview, I give you a few verses just to get an idea. So chapter 13 verse 2. Krishna says, this body, or Arjuna, is called the field, or the kshetra. One who has knowledge of this is called the knower of the field, the kshetrachna. the seer of the field, the one who knows the field. That's how he is called by the enlightened ones. So you have the field, which is matter, this physical body, and you have a witness within, somebody who knows this field. What is it made of? Mind, intellect, the 5 elements, the gunas, etc., etc. Yeah? 5 senses of perception, 5 senses of action. He elaborates very, very much in chapter 13 about that. But the point is, there's a field, there's matter, and there's a spiritual entity which knows about this field, which he has spoken before. The soul, yeah? The observer. On that level, on a physical level, it is the soul. On another point of this chapter, he says, Arjuna, know that I, Krishna, God, am the knower of the field of all fields. So there's different kshetrajnas, there's different knowers of the field. There's the knower of the field, which is the soul for this incarnation, for this physical body. And then there's the knower of the field of every field. And that's the Paramatma, not the Atma, the Paramatma. God who is all-pervading. Yeah? So he speaks about the field, the body, material reality, the knower of the field, the spiritual reality. He speaks in this chapter what knowledge is, very beautiful. I'm not going to go into it because it goes too deep, but I invite you, read it, chapter 13, verses 8 till 12. He describes what true knowledge is. It is amazing. Yeah, it is really amazing to know what is called knowledge. It doesn't mean that you have to be a doctor, engineer, magister, and whatever. No. He just says you have to have a certain understanding of life and about this reality. And do certain things and don't do other things. That is knowledge. Yeah? Be non-violent. Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha dosha anudarshanam. Be aware that the world is a constant cycle of birth, death, old age, and illnesses. Know that life is a constant cycle of suffering. If you have knowledge, then you perceive that, and therefore you're not getting attached. You're not getting attached to family. You're not getting attached to home. You're not getting attached to this physical body. You will have service for God, service to the Guru, love for God, dedication on the path of self-realization. This is called knowledge. Everything else, he concludes in 13:12, everything else is ignorance. Yeah? Quite powerful from my thing. Like, you can really have studied your whole life if you don't know those principles. According to Krishna, according to God, according to the Master, you are just ignorant. Then, chapter 13, verse 35. Those with the eye of wisdom who can perceive the difference between the field and the knower of the field, and how beings can be liberated from material nature, they attain the supreme. So, for me, it's important, I invite you over and over again, take this knowledge, but don't learn it. You have to understand it. This knowledge is not something which is there that you have studied the Bhagavad Gita. It is something which should become part of yourself, that you reflect on yourself. You take this and you're like, what does it mean for my life? What does it mean for my battlefield, for my inner struggle between good and bad? How to overcome myself? What does it mean? Who am I? What's the purpose of my life? You have to ask yourself these questions, but very strongly, not just superficially. Because this knowledge is, like he says here, if you know, who see this, who with the eyes of wisdom perceive this difference, who know the difference between matter and spirit, between the field and the knower of the field, if you know that there's a difference between your body and your soul, this material reality and the spiritual reality, your idea of what the purpose of your life is, earning a lot of money and building a big house and making a family or whatever, and your true purpose of life, attaining God, love, light, striving for the highest, if you know those things, then you will truly grow spiritually. So knowledge, like Paramahamsa Vishwananda always says, my Gurudev always says, knowledge should be there that you grow in spirituality. It makes you more firm, it makes you more strong, more centered. It awakens and deepens your love for God. And I can guarantee you, if you start really relating yourself with this knowledge and really reflecting on it, imbibing it, I can guarantee you changes will happen. You will see the world with different eyes. I have experienced it myself, and I know plenty of brothers, God brothers, which have finally taken it on to not just think this is just some boring stuff which, oh, I need to read the Bhagavad Gita. No, they started to like really dive into it, and they see now, wow, there's so much richness in it. It speaks about my life, it speaks about all my problems, and it gives you all my solutions, and it's really a companion. It's really, really beautiful. So I invite you again and again to take that knowledge, to study it. Here we finish chapter 13, which was the field and the knower of the field, and we come to chapter 14. Chapter 14 is called Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga meaning the three modes of nature. So the three modes of nature, if you are interested about more details on the gunas, on my YouTube channel I've made a whole series about the gunas, which speaks about these three modes. Yes, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. The mode of purity, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. These three modes, these three qualities, they are all pervading. Everything in this material world is dominated by these three qualities. Depending which quality is more dominant, more active, you will experience the world differently, you will act differently. So they are all pervading. I'm not going to go into it because it's quite an extensive theme, but so if you're interested, it will now explain to you more this field. You wanna, like he said before, if you know the field and the knower of the field, then you will attain me. Then you will attain the Supreme automatically. So he has given the very explanation what this field is composed of, this material world, of all the elements it is composed of. In chapter 13, he gives 24 points. And let yourself read it. And now he goes even deeper. These 24 things, they are even now related to the three gunas, these three modes. And they have different, different importances in your spiritual path. But firstly, you have to know them. The better you know something, the better you can handle it. Just, if you're a mechanic and your car is broken, you know how to fix it. If you don't know how to fix it, if you don't know about the car, how it works, you cannot fix it. Well, this is like a big car. It's a good car, like a very sophisticated machine. If you know how it works, this body, this material world, it's big machinery. If you know how it works, you can more deal with it in a better way. Yeah, so chapter 14, verse 5, he says, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Yes, Sattva is the mode of purity, Rajas is the mode of passion, Tamas is the mode of ignorance. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas are the gunas that arise from Prakriti. Prakriti, for those who don't remember, means the material world, material reality, matter, this world, physical world. Yeah. So this physical world is, these three qualities come from this material reality. They are responsible for the bondage of the unchanging self to the body. Well, so if you are now a spiritual seeker and you want to know, you want to realize who you truly are, if you have really asked yourself, who am I? And if you have really asked yourself, and if you have really engaged in the inquiry, in the seeking, in the diving deeper, you will come across a lot of obstacles. You will see how difficult sometimes it is to, well, the more I get to know myself, me personally, the more I must say, the more I know that I have no clue who I am. Yeah, very beautiful, I must say. But still, if I know that it is also because of these three qualities, these three gunas. They are responsible for this eternal soul, which I am, this Atman, to be bound to a physical reality and to not really see clearly. They are responsible for it. So I want to know this problem so that I can also know the solution. Yeah, I need to understand it. I want to understand it better. And Krishna explains very well these three modes. Like I said, he will explain later on in chapter 17 and 18 many different aspects of life in relation to these three gunas. And I have elaborated on all of them on the YouTube channel. So here we just give an overview where he says basically, they are the reason for your bondage. And in the end, after he has explained a lot of it, he concludes with chapter 14, verse 26. He firstly speaks about the one who has transcended these three qualities. Because again, if you want to be liberated, if you want to be free, you have to transcend these three gunas. It's called a gunatita, somebody who is not bound anymore by these three qualities. And he describes the qualities of somebody who is like that, who is in that state of mind, who has transcended all the three modes of nature. And they are quite similar qualities, like the qualities of a devotee, of somebody who has attained samadhi, etc. In chapter 14, verse 26, he says, by serving me with unswerving devotion, one transcends the gunas and becomes fit to attain the true relationship with me. So again, he just keeps on pointing out. He said before, focus your mind on me, be my devotee, worship me, bow down to me, do everything for me. Just have me in mind, you will attain me. And he keeps on repeating this statement. Now he says, the problem is the gunas. Not your senses, not your mind, not your desires, because those three things are governed by these three gunas. But these three gunas, you want to overcome them, which are even more subtle than your desires and your mind and your senses. You want to overcome them? You can analyze and try to do Ayurveda, Sattva Kur and whatever. Yeah, all of these things are good. But in the end of the day, he says, you want to really transcend them if you serve me with devotion. Serve God with devotion. Serve Krishna with devotion. Bhakti. Loving service, and I guarantee you, you will transcend these three gunas. You will attain the true relationship between Atma and Bhagwan, between the soul and God himself. That you will attain only by serving me with unswerving devotion. It is a very simple statement, but if you really try to follow a spiritual path and to grow spiritually, more and more, I believe that you will appreciate Bhakti Marga, Bhakti Yoga. Because it is it's so simple, it's so easy, it is all given. He gives you the realization, he awakens it. You just do your part, do your best, think of him, serve him, worship him, bow down to him. Just have him in mind. Everything else is taken care. And yeah, this is a very simple knowledge. Ask yourself, do you apply it? Do you live like that? I ask myself, how much in my daily life do I apply it and do I live it? How often do I strive from the path and forget about him, forget about serving him, doing it for him, and I'm again selfish and bothered by my material identification, which is okay. But the more you see the problem, the more you see how far you still have to go, the more you still see how much you are still bound and limited, the more you will take the medicine, what he gives, the more you will cherish these teachings and really try harder, better, to become more dedicated, more loving, more serving, more selfless, because that's the solution. Here we conclude chapter 14 and we go to chapter 15. Seems like a marathon today. Chapter 15 is called Purushottama Yoga. Knowing the Supreme Person. So we have spoken before in chapter 2, you remember, Sankhya Yoga. Analysis between a material reality and a spiritual reality. Material reality, the Sanskrit word is Prakriti. The spiritual reality, the word is Purusha in Sankhya. Yeah? Later on, he has used the word Purusha or spiritual person for the spiritual being, for the souls. Because material reality is everything material, the objects, the unsentient things, like this cup, like this computer I'm using. And the sentient being, the Purusha, the spiritual entities, are the Atmas, the individual souls. Now he makes again a very, very important statement, which is similar than what we have looked in chapter 7 when he has spoken about the lower nature, the higher nature, and himself. Yeah, this is a philosophical statement for those who have seen that section where we have spoken about Vishishta Advaita, meaning a qualified non-dualism. So God is the fullness of everything, but he is qualified by its parts. Yeah, God is everything. Like you say, the car. You don't say the composition of wheels, cylinders, consoles, metals, rubbers, whatever. No, you just say car. It's a unit. But this unit is composed of different parts. The same way this body, you say the body. But the body is made of bones, of flesh, of nerves, of DNA, of muscles, of organs. You don't say, oh, the composition of all those things. You just say the body, right? The same way you can say God. He is everything that exists. Vasudeva Sarvam. There's only Vasudeva. There's only God. But God is composed. His body, his transcendent body, his transcendent being is composed, made of different parts. Material parts, which is his lower nature, spiritual parts, which are the souls, Atmas, and he himself, Ishvara, who pervades everything. So we have spoken about, he has said that in chapter 7 already. Why is this important on a practical level? Because you have to understand that you are not God. You are part of God. You are a lover of God. You are a servant of God. You are like this finger is part of this body. He has a duty to do. He has certain limitations. He has absolute dependency. If I cut off this finger, it's no value. Yeah? You can't do anything with the thing. The same thing. The soul is part of God. It has a duty. It has the same qualities. Like this finger has the same quality as this body. The same blood flows through this finger like through the rest of the body. But it has a different quantity. The same way God is Sat Chit Ananda. He is eternal beingness of conscious bliss. And so is the soul. Quality is the same. If God is love, the soul is love. If God is bliss, the soul is bliss. But the quantity is a different thing. He is the fullness of everything. We are part of him. He experiences his sweetness, the love he is, he experiences through the souls which are him, part of him again. I don't know if you could follow me. Anyway, I tried. Chapter 15, the Purushottama Yoga, is now exactly where he elaborates again on that, and he says, there is a Purusha, which is a spiritual being, which is the spiritual soul, the individual atmas. But there's the Purushottama, the Uttama Purusha, the greatest spiritual personality. Who is that? That is Krishna. So there is a difference between the soul and God, and that's again described in this chapter. In chapter 15, verse 7, very important, Mam evamcho jiva loke. It is an eternal fragment of myself, of God Himself, that becomes embodied as the living beings, the jivas, within this mortal world. It acquires the five senses: sight, smell, taste, hearing, touch, and the mind, which is the sixth one, all of which reside in this material nature. Yeah, so the five senses, the mind, they are all part of this material reality. He incarnates, He manifests God, a part of Him, a fragment of Him, manifests as this individual soul. In you, in you, in you, in me. It is all part of Him which has given life to this matter, because this body, once this Atman, once this Jivan leaves this body, you know what happens. It goes back to dust, right? This body is now so alive because there's a battery inside. A good battery, yeah? Long-living battery. And even when the battery goes out of this body, then this body will decay, and the battery will go in a new body, or maybe not. Yeah, who knows what will happen? But it's a part of Him. This jiva, this incarnated soul, is a part, an eternal fragment of God Himself. Yeah, very important statement philosophically, and this whole chapter is also a very short chapter, and it elaborates on the greatness of God. He speaks about Himself in a very, very beautiful way. And the last verse for today, chapter 15, verse 18, where he says, "Because I transcend the perishable and am also higher than the imperishable, I am declared in the world and by the Vedas as the supreme being, the Purushottama." So, as I am, God says, Krishna says about Himself, as I transcend the perishable. What is perishable? What do you think is perishable? This material world, right? This material world, even though it is also eternal, the energy, the potential of material reality is eternal. But it's different objects which come forth, they come and go. The Prakriti itself is eternal, but the objects which come, they come and go, like the plants. Flowers grow, fall back, the bodies come and go back. Energetically, it stays. It's the perishable part. So as, he says, as I transcend this perishable part, but also I transcend the imperishable. What is the imperishable part? The Atma. Yeah, in chapter 2, verse 20, he has said, "Know that the self, the Atman, is never born, and it will never die. It always was. You are, have been, and will always be. Who you are is imperishable. You are an eternal fragment of God Himself, of love Himself, of Krishna Himself. And it will never perish." He says here, because I transcend the perishable material world and the imperishable, the spiritual beings, I am declared in this world and by the Vedas which are revealed scriptures, which were the scriptures given by God Himself for the upliftment of humanity. I am revealed in this world and by the Vedas as the supreme being, the Purushottama, the Uttama Purusha, the ultimate supreme personality being. And yeah, that was chapter 15, the Purushottama Yoga. So let me just round it up with the chapters that you get a little bit the sequence. Started with the lamentation. You don't want to do what you have to do because you are weak, depressed, whatever. God or the Guru tells you, no, my dear, you have a wrong understanding. You are a spiritual being and not this physical body. You have to do your duty. Chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga. How you have to do it? Chapter 3, Karma Yoga. You have to do it without being attached to the results of what you do. Do it without attachment. To attain what? Chapter 4, Jnana. Knowledge of the true self. Yeah, realized knowledge of your true self. Self-realization. Now you're confused. How is that happening? What should I do? Should I run to the forest, to an ashram, to a cave, meditate for my life long? Or should I, what should I do? Chapter 5, Karma Sannyas, true renunciation. True renunciation is not external, it is internal. You have to do your duty. Do your work. Do what you have to do. Serve other people. Loka Sangra, the welfare of the world. Do yajna, do sacrifice for the celestial world, that this whole cycle is functioning. He ends that and he gives now Dhyana Yoga, the yoga of meditation. Controlled mind is your best friend and uncontrolled mind is your worst enemy. Control this mind through constant practice and through detachment. You will attain control of mind and become a yogi, which is dear to me. And the dearest yogi is somebody who is devoted to me, who loves me and makes me the supreme goal. And that ends chapter 6. First section has ended. The first section which speaks about karma yoga and self-realization. We start with the second section, chapter 7 till 12. Chapter 7, he now introduces himself, Krishna. Vijnana, knowing Krishna, practical knowledge. Lower nature of Krishna, higher nature of Krishna, and he himself like the string which holds the pearl necklace together, if you remember. And he says, introduces the concept of bhakti yoga. This maya, this illusion, this wrong perception of reality is easily to overcome if you dedicate your life to me. Become a devotee. Bhakti, 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 love for God. Chapter 8, Akshara Brahma Yoga. So he speaks now about death and how you will, what happens when you die and which are the different realities. He gives you some idea about time and space, which is amazing. Yeah, once you understand how time and space functions, you see how important it is to actually break free, because this is, wow, a very huge wheel which turns around for all eternity. And there's a lot of places you get lost. The jungle is not just this world, but there's huge jungle all over. And so again, he makes you aware how important it is to know him. And then it goes to chapter 9, the royal secret, the royal knowledge, where he says, love everything what you offer to him, do it out of love. Every offering you do out of love, he accepts. He says, everything you do, everything you eat, every austerity, every sacrifice you do in chapter 9, verse 27, make it an offering to me. Make it an offering to me. In that moment, your karma yoga, your non-attachment to the fruits, once you offer it to God, it becomes pure bhakti yoga. And he concludes with saying, Man mana bhava mat bhakto, focus your mind on me, become my devotee. Worship me, bow down to me, you will come to me. Great. Now, how do I focus on you? let me tell my glories. Vibhuti Yoga, chapter 10. Amongst the Gandharvas, I'm this. Amongst the waters, I'm the ocean. Amongst the birds, I am the eagle. Amongst the animals in the jungle, I'm the lion. Amongst the fishes, I'm the shark. Amongst, etc., etc., etc. Amongst the secrets, I am silence. Yeah, so he keeps on telling his glory, and he finishes with saying, this is just a fraction. The whole glory of this material world is just a fraction of who I am. Arjuna asks, okay, who are you then? Chapter 11, Vishvarupa Darshana, the vision of the cosmic form. Now he sees the fullness of Krishna. Well, he doesn't see the fullness because it's not visible. It just doesn't have a beginning, no middle, and an end. It's just overwhelming. He can't handle it. But he ends again by saying, only this, you could only see it because of your unswerving devotion, because of your pure love for me. Otherwise, you cannot know me. Chapter 12, now Bhakti Yoga, elaborating on the greatness of love for God and what it means to be a lover of God, how to be dear to Him. And then, after he has finished that part, we finished the second section, which was Bhakti Yoga and how to attain God realization. So you want to attain the ultimate. Very simple. One medicine. Manmana bhava matbhakto matyaji mam namaskuru. Focus your mind on God. Worship Him. Become His devotees. Bow down to Him. That's it. You just have to constantly be contemplating on Him. That will give you ultimate God realization. Not just self-realization, but God realization. So, after that, chapter 13, Kshetra, Kshetrachna Yoga, what we covered today. The field, again, material nature and spiritual nature, knowing the field. Once you know the field and the knower of the field, you will attain Him, because obviously you will know where to go and what to focus on. Chapter 14, Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, the three qualities, the three modes of this material nature, understand them better so that you can actually transcend them finally. You want to transcend them. How you transcend them again? Easiest way, serve me with devotion. And you will automatically transcend them. You don't need to study them all. You don't even need to go to my channel and watch all the videos to understand them. No, just serve Him with pure devotion and you will be transcending them. Chapter 15, Purushottama Yoga, the Supreme Being. And he again explains, you are a part of me. You are an eternal part of me. We are eternally connected. For all eternity, I'm yours, you are mine. There's a love relationship between us. And because I transcend this material world and the spiritual world, your spiritual being, I'm considered to be the Purushottama, the highest spiritual being. That's for today. I think that was more than enough, I would say. If there's any questions, now is the moment. On Zoom or here. ¿Alguien tiene pregunta?
Niente, ninguno.
Niente, ninguno. If there's no question, that's a very good sign or a very bad sign. I take it for a good sign, hopefully. It either means you have understood everything or nothing. So let's hope you have understand everything. It's quite simple. Focus your mind on God. Make Him number one. Worship Him. Bow down to Him. Make your life only about loving and serving Him. And you will fulfill the purpose of existence itself. In that sense, thank you for your attention again. Wish you a nice weekend. See you next Saturday. And say good day. Om Shanti 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 Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. Krishna Kanya Lal Ki Jai, Satgurudeva Swami Vishwananda Mahaprabhu Ki, Samasta Bhakta Mandali Ki Jai.